from the lunch break. In the meantime, there will be a survey, a very brief survey that we would like to ask you to fill in. It's going to be projected, the QR code, very soon. So while we wait, we're going to take 1 minute, and then please continue with the survey, right? Okay, we're going to start with the discussion panel. This panel will have 4 rounds, in which in the first round, every member of the panel will be introduced. And then each member of the panel will answer the first question. They are assigned 6 minutes to answer the first question. The third round is the moment in which they need to answer the second question. And then in the fourth round, you are given, the audience is given some time to ask the members of the panel some questions, okay? The first question, so for you to know, is the following. What is your perception about the use of artificial intelligence for teaching English language? Could you provide examples? And the second question is, what aspects of learning English are not addressed through the use of technology? The first member of the panel is Dr. Marta del Ángel. She holds a BA in English-Spanish translation from Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León. She has a master's degree in education in ESL and a doctorate degree in education with an honorable mention by Tecnológico de Monterrey. She's a full-time professor at Tecnológico de Monterrey since 1994. She is currently the director of the TESOL postgraduate program. She has been the head of the English and Spanish program and taught English courses in foreign institutions. In 2016 and again in 2022, Tecnológico de Monterrey recognized her as an inspiring professor. She is a former president of the Nuevo León chapter of the MEX-TESOL Association of English Teachers and a translator and an editor of the magazine De Clase Internacional from the language department of the English version of the magazine Comunicar. She has supervised master's degree and doctorate thesis in the area of foreign languages, and she is a reviewer for international journals. In 2019, she published the ebook titled Translation Strategies for English Language Learners. She has also published articles related to her research area, being a representative for Tecnológico de Monterrey at national and international conferences, and worked collaboratively with universities from the United States, Europe, and South America. Thank you very much for being with us. The second member of the panel is Dr. Candy Veas Faundes. She is a practitioner with more than 20 years of experience teaching English as a foreign language in various contexts and levels. She holds a Master's of Arts degree in TESL from the University of Minnesota and a PhD in education from Universidad de Almería. She's a full-time professor of the Faculty of Humanities at Universidad de Playa Ancha. Currently, her professional and academic experiences are mainly focused on advising teachers at the graduate and undergraduate levels in action research initiatives. Her research interests include methodology for inclusion in language learning, technology in language teaching, and second language teacher education. Thank you very much. The third member of the panel is Dr. Coritza Subero. She holds a PhD in linguistics by Pontificia Universidad Católica Valparaíso, a Master in English Linguistics, New Applications and International Communication by Universidad Complutense de Madrid, and an MA in Hispanic Philology from Instituto de la Lengua Española, Spain. Her areas of expertise are related to applied linguistics, systematic functional linguistics, design of didactic materials for teaching English for specific purposes, educational technology, discourse analysis. She has teaching experience for more than 15 years at different educational levels in Venezuela, Spain, and Chile. Thank you very much. The fourth member of our panel is Professor Neil Arias. He is a teacher of English, holding a bachelor's degree in English language and education from Universidad Católica del Maule, a diploma in inclusive education from Pontificia Universidad Católica del Maule, and a master's degree in neuroscience applied to education from Universidad Mayor. He has worked in public and private institutions. He has volunteered for RISEL and currently works at Universidad Católica del Maule in Dirección de Formación General and the School of English Pedagogy. His areas of interests are cognitive neuroscience, foreign language learning, and teachers training. Thank you very much. And our last but not least member of the panel is Dr. Ricardo Valderrama Bastilla. He is a professor at the Universidad de Talca and the director of the English teaching programs at the Faculty of Education Sciences at the same university. He studied English, German, and Spanish translation at the Universidad de Concepción and later pursued English pedagogy at Universidad Andrés Bello. He holds a master's degree in applied linguistics from the Universidad Católica de la Santísima Concepción and is currently pursuing a PhD in language and literature didactics at Universidad de Barcelona, Spain. He has worked in different universities and technical education centers in Chile. His area of interest lies in the use of technology for teaching and learning English as a foreign language. So, as I mentioned before, each member of the panel will have 6 minutes to address the first question. We're going to start with Dr. Marta, okay? And the first question is, what is your perception about the use of artificial intelligence for the teaching of English language?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again, and I feel honored to have this panel discussion, and especially because I'm glad we're not debating, because that's not the point. The spirit of a panel discussion is, to share perspectives, and, that's what we're here for. We've been sharing before, our presentations, and well, I feel very glad to be sharing this panel with you. Well, the first thing I'd say about technology, I think we're all pro-technology as we are here standing and sharing our experiences. I'd say it's key to success, especially, with the profile of students that we have nowadays. If we look at statistics, we know that about more than 60% of people are connected through the internet. We can see it here, hello to the ones that are there in the, watching us through technology. That couldn't be possible without it. And, it's got a lot of advantages. However, yesterday we had the chance to, knowing maybe advantages or sort of talking about the dark side of the technology. We're not gonna get into that now. But that's good to know, like in a thesis, to be able to know, who we are dealing with. And there is an author that says that technology could be our, very loyal friend, but also, it could be, to use it with caution. Well, could you provide examples as to the question that Mr. Bruno asked me and that all of my colleagues are going to answer? Well, the examples are the ones that we've been living through, you know, all this change from technology, maybe kind of a resistance to it. But then we found out, as you know, some of our speakers today were using it, we can see the advantage when it comes to facilitating the learning of our students, when it comes to facilitating our work as teachers. I think is an advantage that we cannot left behind. As to, you know, for example, the use of GPT, we blame it sometimes that students can get addicted to it, but also could be, you know, us as teachers, because we can depend on it. The other day I was looking for, you know, something to tell my mom because it was Mother's Day in Mexico, May the 10th. And, you know, I just knew I love her so much because everything she's done for me. But I wasn't able to put that into words, you know, and I put in the GPT and say, well, a message to Mother's Day. And, you know, it came with, you know, things that you would be like, if you ask me for an example, see, you know, from the bottom of my heart, it would seem that I did it, but I didn't. And it says something like, to the best mom in the world, thank you for your endless love, support, and guidance. I couldn't have said it better. Happy Mother's Day. You know, not only for my personal things, but, I mean, not only for my professional performance, but also my personal things. And another thing, it says, for all the times you kissed away my tears, patched up my wounds, and made everything better. Thank you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. Wow. That was in no time that I got that message. And, you know, I was saying, how come I didn't have that, you know, back in the times where I needed to write so many messages. But, you know, that comes, you know, to use it with caution, and once in a while it could be, you know, our best friend. So you asked me to provide more examples. I'd say that technology has opened also my eyes into so many advantages that, you know, I talked at the beginning in the keynote conference. It has, you know, facilitated, especially for those of us that started with no technology available in the classroom. For me, it works wonders because I can see the before and after. And, you know, for now, by now, I would say that technology is my best friend. It has become one of my best friends. Thank you.
I'm going to go now. You know, they gave us these panel questions some time ago, a couple of months ago, so we've had some time to think about it. And I have a little bit of a reminder here of my thoughts, my original thoughts. But when I look at my answer at the beginning, you know, the question is, what is your perception about the use of artificial intelligence for teaching English? And could you give examples? So I thought about examples, types of resources that we can find these days that can be useful for teaching English, such as adaptive learning platforms, which I think are quite helpful in presenting learners with exercises, activities which are at their level of ability, and kind of taking them by the hand and advancing with them at their own pace. I think that's a great example of how artificial intelligence can be a part of our teaching. And also we've heard here in this conference about bots and assistants, which can also provide experiences with interaction in the second language, which are very close to real life interactions, and they are, of course, also very useful. And I, in my own presentation, talked about the speech recognition algorithms, which can be a powerful tool to help our learners in improve their pronunciation. but not without some caveats. And you know, in my own presentation, I presented to you the experience that we had with this speech recognition artificial intelligence, in which there are some limitations that it has because it's fed with a certain type of pronunciation that is expected, and so it does not account for variability and other accents. So I agree with Marta in the sense that we really, I mean, these are very powerful tools, but we have to be careful about the way that we implement them in the classroom, because it could have an opposite result to the one that we want. If we want to motivate students, but it may end up putting them down because they have an accent, especially at the beginning levels. And then later on, I continued thinking about how can we use artificial intelligence for us teachers in our own work. And I think that one of the most important elements is the improvement in our productivity. Because there are many times we have great ideas, but we may not do it because we think, oh, but it's going to take too long. You know, I have this idea of all of this, creating all of these prompts, and it would be great if I had a video to go with it and images to go with it. Well, now we can do it. I think that this is one of the main changes that are soon going to happen to us. And maybe those of you who are now studying the teachers to be, when you graduate, you will have access to all of these wonderful tools to be able to put into effect, put into practice all of those wonderful ideas that we've had in the past that we have not really made concrete because we thought that it was too much work. And just to give you a very simple and very close example, last week I was preparing my presentation for this conference, and I was very busy, so I really didn't have a lot of time to start thinking about slides and designs and you know, what color and things like that. And for the first time, I used a feature that Microsoft has in the online platform in OneDrive that is able to export from text to presentation. And the presentation that you saw, I didn't do it. It was AI generated. And the only thing, I only had to choose the color, you know, like, hey, what do I like best, green or orange? But it took me it was surprising to me that it took me 5 minutes, a task that before would have taken me 3 hours. So that's kind of my latest reflection about AI, the possibility of augmenting our productivity, and not only our productivity as teachers, but also learners' productivity. So that's my opinion.
Okay, this is my time. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to offer my perceptions about this topic. As we know, we have been immersed in AI for 7 decades, but by now, still, we are trying to recognize that we are on it. 7 decades, we say, yeah, from McCarthy. And we say, wow, it is like a silent revolution. We didn't know it. Yeah, but we have it in our smartphones, smartwatch, Facebook, Duolingo, yeah, as you know. When we go to the Cambridge webpage, we can see write and improve, speak and improve. All of them are part of AI. But we didn't know. And sometimes we are just walking a little bit and saying what we think and talking with some friends, and our smartphones are perceiving what we say, or maybe the places where we visit. But, as I said before, we couldn't or we didn't know. What is happening now that we are receiving some information about GPT, or maybe some situations in education that are particularly in our students' product. And we say, wow, yeah, it exists, and it is going to affect my job. Yeah, what is going to be my role as a teacher? And I think that our perception about it, it is just thinking about the way we can use it as a tool for getting better, particularly for critical thinking, and what is going to be the future of our society. It has been for us just as a tool, but it's more than that. My perception for this is it is going to be like a industrial revolution that we said, no, I reject it. It is not going to be for us. It is just going to be for a moment. Or maybe using a car, it is just for some kind of people. No, it's going to be part of our future. And we need to think about it in education in general, not only for learning a language, because as I mentioned before, write and improve, speak and improve, Duolingo, or else speak, a lot of apps that we can use it. But the way we need to reflect on it and maybe change some perceptions is, if it is really important, emotions, feedback, critical thinking in our students and in our society, we need to work on it. It is just part of our new role, and that's all.
Okay, well, thank you very much for, well, the opportunity. I feel very honored to be surrounded by doctors. Well, to address the question on artificial intelligence, I think it brings about benefits. Well, we can somehow adapt learning to individual experiences. That's one thing. And create different learning experiences to learners through those individualities that they may have. I can think of some examples such as Humada. I don't know if you've ever heard of that AI powered platform. Have you ever heard of it? Well, Humada is an artificial intelligence that helps you interact with a PDF file. So you basically upload a PDF file and you can ask it questions. How awesome. So maybe you can ask, what does the author intend with the title of this paper or with this text? And well, as I said earlier, you can adapt it. So you can use it with advanced students, but at the same time you can use it with beginners. It doesn't have to be a paper. It could be a story, a short narrative, or even a recipe. So you could ask, maybe, are there any other ways in which I could prepare the same recipe, but with other ingredients, etc.? And the artificial intelligence will give you answers. It's one of my favorite ones. There's another one called Tommy, T-O-M-E. And with that one, you can, and it's pretty similar with what you said on creating PowerPoint or slides, presentations compared to Canva. And you produce these automatized presentations with just a simple prompt. So the idea is to give like a good prompt in order to get a good product. That's key when it comes to artificial or AI-powered platforms. So, well, with Tommy, for instance, if you as a teacher don't want to waste much time on allotting time for students to create a presentation, download the material from Google, pictures, selecting pictures, writing something, but divert their focus to grammar or maybe to lexical items or to use the language instead of probably creating the presentation, because that takes time. You could just tell them, okay, use this prompt, use some lexical items, but let's focus on English. That's how we're here for, right? Another one, and this is one of my favorites, it's DALL-E, DALI 2, it's a new version, so DA hyphen double L2, so maybe you want to Google it. And with this one, you can create pictures out of a description. So this is a very good one. So the more detail you put into the prompt, again, the prompt is important when it comes to artificial intelligence. The closer the picture you'll get to probably the representation that you have with the picture. So as the panel members have mentioned, it has benefits, but also as teachers or professionals of English language, we have to reflect upon the use of the different AI platforms. And what I suggest when using them is to think and analyze them. What is the purpose that it serves? Does it serve the purpose of my outcome? Or does it serve the purpose of the content I want to cover with this particular platform? So for instance, what I suggest is to mirror the artificial intelligence with a taxonomy, perhaps. You name it, Mersano, Bloom's, either, right? And check, can we identify information with this platform? Can we analyze information? Can we synthesize information? Can we evaluate, analyze, etc.? So we have to be careful with the outcome, with the purpose, and think, does it serve my purpose? Will it help my students to enhance their learning skills, or will it just get them stuck at a point? So with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation. I believe that 1999 should be written in history books because it presented the major spoiler ever, the Matrix. It's like we're living in the Matrix right now. Yes, we don't know if what we have in front of us it's real or not, but it is, or it's not. Maybe I'm not here, maybe I am. I remember a few weeks ago, my mother phoned me, and she told me that there is a new scam, like people can clone your voice. Have you ever heard that? Now people are cloning your voice using AI. By the way, it's 11labs.com, but you need to pay for it. And she was terrified, but I was amazed. Imagine that now we can have an interview with Michael Jackson, although he's dead. But we can have an interview in a listening exercise with our students interviewing Michael Jackson, although he died in 2009. So I think that's amazing. That's amazing. And I was like surfing the internet a few weeks ago as well, and then I had a question. Do you know Blinding Lights, The Weeknd? Are you sure that The Weeknd sings that song? Let me see if it works. Unfortunately, I don't have internet here, but you can search at home. Michael Jackson also has a version of Blinding Lights. And yes, he died in 2009. And the song was released in 2020. But this is one of the improvements and one of the magnificent things that we can achieve with artificial intelligence. I believe that's the use that we can have with our students. Sometimes we have problems and issues when trying to find adequate material to teach. Imagine that you can design now a specific vocabulary that you want to teach or a specific structure, and it can be with any voice. Of course, that it has a lot of drawbacks. And that is the reason our role as teachers has changed. Now we need to boost with our students and increase the critical thinking. Make them think if what they have in front of them is real or not. To criticize information, yes? As you said with great, what was it? Yes, yes. Now we need to give that power to students. They are responsible for finding information if it is true or not. So that is one of the challenges that we have ahead. Yes? Artificial intelligence, of course, has come to change everything and to put new challenges not only in students, but all for us, teachers. So it's going to be interesting what we can achieve in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience before we move on to the second question?
Hi. So this is just mainly a comment, not a question. But I'm a student here in an English teaching program, and we recently got our teacher in a subject changed, and she was just telling us about ChatGPT and what comes with being able to basically do a whole task by just writing a prompt in it. And she said something that kind of started ringing in my head as you were all talking. And she said something that will never replace is the ability of the teacher to know their students. Because I've had teaching experiences in practicum centers and so on, and we know what our students can do and what they can write and what they can produce. So I've used ChatGPT to kind of know how it works, and there is a it always produces the same structure. There is always a thesis statement, then it goes ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and then a sum up at the end of whatever prompt you write on it. So as a teacher, if you get to revise, for example, essays, and you'll see that there are, I don't know, 10 essays that are the same, the same format, you'll immediately see that these 10 students, they usually don't write like that. So that perception and that ability of a teacher that know their students and to analyze and to kind of get to know them and being close to them will never, in my opinion, AI will never be able to replace that. And that's the human feature of teaching, in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
Hi. I am an English teacher over here, but I worked with preschoolers for almost 10 years in an English school. And one of the biggest complaints or problems, or what the missus used to say to the parents was, please don't let them use the cell phone. Don't let them play video games. Yes, we did have a platform like Rosetta here that it was going according to the unit that we were covering. However, lately there are many studies that it says that the teachers, like doctors or all these special people, is saying they're going to go back to the pencil and paper with the students. As a matter of fact, there's a Harvard news about this professor who says no more, because it was an investigation where the result was how the children or how the young students they went back into their learning abilities. So now they are going back to the old style. Since you have many future teachers and you are telling them to go with technology, but here, on the other hand, we have all these studies from people from Harvard who are telling you, it didn't work. What do we do? Sorry to put it like that.
We would like to start maybe from this side, and then we move on. All right?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. I believe this is just like teaching a kid to cross the street. It's not like you take the kid and you throw it. No. It's like you need to first teach steps. Like every time you go near a street, watch both sides. You can only cross in this way. Look at the traffic lights. So everything is a process. You need to teach the process. But with cell phones, we do quite the opposite. We give kids the phone just like a nana virtual, so they do not make noise, they stay quiet. But I think that is the otherwise. Instead of taking the cell phones away from kids, we should teach them how to use them and guiding them, just the way as we do it when we teach them how to cross the street. Yes? So I think that the main question here is, when do we start teaching technology with kids? Yes, when do we start? And I think that's a key question. I believe that we cannot take kids away from technology or technology away from kids, because it's everywhere. Since they turn on the TV, or we are the worst example ever because we are with our cell phones in front of our kids or watching TV and more. And I think this is a discussion that we need to have with them, teaching them that they have to use it responsibly, guiding them and monitoring what they're doing. So I believe that although maybe Harvard research is probably quite right, also is the sense that we need to guide our kids and our students, since they're really, really young, to use technology itself. We as teachers and we as parents, both. Mm-hmm. It is. It is. My kid is a techno lover. He's 6 years old, but he knows more fatalities than I using Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 11. So, but again, like, I have a cousin that he is 6 years old, and my son is 6 years old. One of them only watches Disney movies, and he's really violent. And my son plays Mortal Kombat, and he doesn't fight at all. But I think it's that how you talk with them and say, okay, violence is only allowed in video games. You should never fight. It's talking, it's guiding. Technology is there, but technology is not dangerous. We are. And everything depends on the use that we give it or how we monitor it, can change everything.
Is it working? Yeah. Thanks. Well, I'm thinking there's a very famous study that was carried out several years ago. It was done in the US with American babies, 9 months. Maybe you know it. It's very famous. So we have these 3 groups of babies who were exposed to Mandarin Chinese. So there were 3 ways in which these 3 groups of babies were exposed to the Mandarin Chinese. So the first group was approached with a teacher that taught them face-to-face interaction through games, through interacting with them, so playing with them. So phonemes, certain words from Mandarin Chinese, but on a face-to-face interaction. There was this other group who was exposed to the language, but through just watching TV. And the third group was only exposed to the language through recordings, audio recordings, so they just listened. Not surprisingly, the first group was the one that was able to recall and remember most of the phonemes and words. Let us not forget the social aspect. So I totally second the idea of my colleague here. The social aspect is very important. If you just give away your phone and let the kid do it freely on an uncontrolled basis, of course, he will divert from the outcome, which is learning, which is getting something out of just scrolling down, right? So the social aspect is very important, that we accompany the kid. Just as a tree that's forming, we have to guide it so it grows strong. Mm-hmm.
For every event or situation or phrase, we can see or we can observe advantages and disadvantages. And sometimes we can observe bullying in the class, or maybe just paying attention to their mobile phones. However, we can use also that tool for our classes. In our ice-breaking, for example, as in some presentations here, Menti, Canva, yeah, or Jamboard or gamification. We can have different strategies in our classroom, collaborative learning or autonomous, yeah. However, it's the way where we use all those tools. And maybe as our colleague said, we need to select properly our tools and also establish it in a proper moment in our class. And I think it is part of our role. And we need to know the way we can use it properly and to manage our students with all those tools that they manage every day. I think that more than being difficult to manage in a classroom, it is part of our valuable tools. That's all.
I have one. Thank you. Very interesting question, and I can see how this is of concern these days, since changes are coming so fast, and we are having to change our ways, and we see that the new generations are exposed to this type of materials much more than we were when we were little. So it's a new world. And I can't help but relate that concern to, for example, what happened when we started writing things, you know? Before we started writing things, we had to remember them by heart. And that was an ability that we human beings had and developed for a long time to remember stories, for example. And once somebody invented writing and, you know, started putting things in writing, that was a way of technology that we didn't have before. And I can see how these people were concerned that, you know, kids are not going to remember things anymore. You know, their ability to use their brains to remember stories is going to be hindered by having this new tool that is taken away from them. So I can see how that is probably the reason why this Harvard study found that we are going back in our abilities. But I wonder, because I haven't read the study, but I wonder, what abilities are we talking about? Because I can see the same way as when we started writing, we developed different abilities. And I can see that something very similar is going to happen now. We are going to become a different species. You know, our brains are going to work differently because, as we have been talking, the type of tasks that we are going to get involved in will be different. We'll be given prompts, for example, thinking very carefully on what we want, maybe learning how to put them in clear language so that the machine does what we want them to do. So from that point of view, I'm not so concerned because I realize that something new is going to emerge from this, but we are living in the process. We are living in this process of change, and it's probably going to be difficult for us to adapt to those changes. And I'm not so concerned about little kids. I'm more concerned with adults like us who are in the process of learning a new way of being. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, there's not much left to say, but I'd say that according to this study that you wrote up, and you know, in some studies that I've seen when I was in Toronto in one of the teaching congresses, they said, are we going backwards because we want people to talk, you know, face to face? We want them to be in contact by WhatsApp or whatever means. And I don't think that we're going backwards. I think that we're forgetting, you know, to use both things at a time. It's either who doesn't need a pat, a helping hand when you're in trouble. Maybe you can talk through Zoom, but if he comes and gives you a hug, well, then that's human contact. And I think it's a question of mixing things. Like, for example, I can use the technology to help you out. Like, for example, I remember Ricardo, he was saying, well, let me see, you know, how your blood pressure is, in order to know you have anxiety, an episode of anxiety or not. But you can always go and knock the door and, you know, here I am. I think we have to go by the eclectic approach and get the best out of everything we have available. And as a matter of fact, also in that Congress, they were very concerned about care and kindness, because sometimes, you know, you have a screen in between, and it seems like you have an avatar, as you said. You don't know you're real or not, or you're the real one talking to me because I have a different voice. But, you know, knowing that that person, you know, is talking to me, and whatever avatar is. And I love the example of, you know, coming back to the writing, because that's great, because as we know, writing is an artificial tool. You know, we used to have like paintings before in order to express our feelings. And then we had the writing. And even though we say, well, that's something to remember, it was also a tool to, we could take, you know, like we go back again to those two sides of technology. Now you can write a recipe that belonged to my grandma, and I didn't want anybody to know about it. But as I have the writing, I can share it. It's like you can see in the Reels and TikTok, everyone is sharing. That could be too, but you know, I think if you have a helping hand next to you, that will always help. So it's a question, you know, having a balance between technology and be mature enough in order to select what you're going to be using with students or with your children.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the questions from the audience, as particularly the second question opened the door to the discussion in connection to the second question that our members of the panel will have to answer. And the question is to remind you what aspects of learning English are not addressed through the use of technology. So, Dr. Garza, would you like to? Thank you.
Yeah. I was thinking that probably when we are talking about English, maybe many people think that we only need to focus on language skills, like reading, writing, listening, speaking. But what about cultural competence? This is something that is not being developed in any app, like to know more about the culture that we are immersing our students in. I think that is one of the things that maybe we need to work on, or maybe apps in the future will have to work on, the cultural competence. And the other probably is emotion. It's not the same when you go when you go in a classroom, you do not only work with language itself. It depends sometimes in the mood of the students, what are you going to teach and how you're going to teach it. So there's no app yet, I had to say that, yet, that works with students' emotions. I mean, for example, Duolingo is always the same. And you receive the email every day, like you need to train today, but Duolingo does not matter if you are sad or happy or whatever. So it's always there, every day, yeah? So maybe that's what we need to work on, because we have a lot of tools to work in listening and speaking. You mentioned some of them, like Elsa Speak and more. But I think that emotion is still a topic. Cultural competence is the other. I had some notes here, probably I'm forgetting one. Yes, and the ability to work in context. Yes, I remember that I had this foreign classmate when I was in the university many years ago, and he was from the United States, and I was outside in Universidad de Concepción. I was sitting on the grass, usually I was there, and he was from the United States, and he says, "Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo se llama ese árbol?" Without context. And I said, okay, there's no app that teaches you how to socialize or how to work in different contexts. It's always the same. It's plain. Like, you don't have the same reaction with your teacher that with your friends. You don't say good morning to your friends, right? Do you? No. So I think that that's something that technology has to improve, that it doesn't teach it. And I believe that's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think technology has addressed a lot of things. We can't deny that. I mean, we well know it. It's a supporting tool that helps students to work on the go. We know that 2 hours, 3 hours of English a week, it's not enough. So we recognize, we cherish technology in that sense. But still, as it's been mentioned, there are some drawbacks. There are some things that technology still falls short. We have to think of how complex human interaction is. It is very complex. There are many subtleties that surround what human interaction involves. And when we teach a foreign or second language, that requires, whether we want it or not, interaction, communicating, right? So I'm thinking of speaking, for instance. I use them myself, voice recognition softwares, for instance. Maybe you know some, maybe you've used them at some point in your careers or studies. I use them with my phonetics students to study after classes, to practice. But still, I've encountered that most of them may not capture the subtleties of connected speech, for example, in terms of rhythm, intonation, pronunciation, etc. Another thing is that, and this is what I mean when I say that human interaction, it's a complex aspect of life. When we speak, when we communicate ideas, we don't say things only through words. Do we all agree on that, right? Our body tells a lot. So we can tell when a person is sad, happy, angry. So we express a lot through our facial expressions, through our gestures, body as a whole. So somehow our body is intertwined with the words we utter, the sentences that we say, what we communicate as a whole. So I don't think there's any artificial intelligence or technology that can fully or effectively portray body language as it is, as we humans use it. And another thing, and I agree with my colleague as well on that one, emotions. And that's why I asked you yesterday with the VR immersion, remember? So I asked you whether the characters presented somehow an emotion when interacted with the students. And so yeah, there are no technologies that can fully portray how humans express their emotion. Emotional support is significant. It's very important in the learning process, particularly on memory formation. According to neuroscientific studies, we know that when students abide in a safe environment, when they're fully supported emotionally by a teacher or a person, a tutor, facilitator, you name it, they release some hormones, neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, norepinephrine, that somehow regulate motivation, active engagement, and long-lasting memory. That's very important. These areas related to emotion or emotional support or scaffold work in close connection with something called in the brain the hippocampus. And the hippocampus encodes long-lasting memories. And that's what we aim at, that our students remember, that identify, that do things with what we want to teach them. Thank you.
Well, very, very hard question because most of you have answered that. And of course, his participation was really significant for giving this answer. in a way, you offer the answer because it is more for the essence of human being. Yeah, this kind of feedback or emotions that we as a teacher have with you as a student. As we know, AI is like a large amount of algorithms just imitating our behavior, yeah, in a big data, and just reproducing our behaviors for teaching. Yeah, and we can get some tools for teaching vocabulary, grammar, writing, speaking, some variations, yeah? But I think that the clue here is related to emotions, as you said, the context. Be really near with our students and maybe with special needs, yeah? Maybe you can manage their progress, maybe attend some difficulties, and the machine can do it. And it is gonna be brief, but I think that you mentioned a lot of them. However, we need to keep in mind that if we have it as our role in the class, it is something that the AI cannot do.
All right. Well, you kind of said everything, everything that I had in my notes at least. But just as a reminder, what technology cannot do, it cannot teach in context and culture. It cannot account for accents, different accents. Like I said, I've had the experience of an AI being quite demanding on the students for achieving accents which are very close to native-like, which is not the reality to language learning. And also you talked about motivation and engagement from the point of view of the emotional aspect of writing, and you even mentioned nonverbal communication, which is another of my ideas which I had. But I was just thinking about the fact that an AI or technology can never replace a good teacher, because a good teacher knows what to engage learners in order for them to develop abilities in the second language. And I was thinking, you know, we can have, everybody has access to all of these wonderful tools for language learning these days. Everybody can, you know, go to the internet and log in and create an account, but people don't do that. Why? Because they are not English teachers, language teachers. We are the ones who are in charge of creating the learning experiences that we are going to propose to our learners, which may or may not use technology. Really, in the past, we didn't have the technology, so we had to think of ideas of how to engage them in communication without any technology, and now we have it. And it's great, because as I said before, there are many great ideas that before we used to think about that took a long time. Now we're going to be able to do it really fast and easy. But the most important thing, I from all of the topics that you've discussed, I think, in my opinion, is engagement. Because what we want is for learners to be engaged with the task of learning the language, which is the notion of investment. And if they are not invested in the task of learning the language, they can sit in your class for years and years, and they are not going to get anything from your class, because they are not really interested. So it's a matter of how do we motivate them, how do we engage them. And I think that AI and technology in general is providing us with great tools. But as I said before, we are in the process of redefining our teaching. You know, there's this model that studies or looks at the way in which we incorporate new methods or tools into our teaching, which is the SARM model, and SAM, S-A-M-R, sorry, it stands for substitution, what's the other one? I don't know if you know that model. The last one is redefining, but we can go from substituting what we do with something technological without changing much. We can then later move on to modifying what we do because of the technology. And then now I think that it's time for us to take the step to redefine what we're doing and change the way in which we have been thinking about teaching. Because really, with all of these wonderful tools that we have, we really don't have any reason why not do it if this is the real life of our students. That's the way that I see it. I mean, we can't really run and run from it, even if we don't like it, even if we have trouble, because as I said in my presentation, we will have trouble with some of the features. But I think that the most important thing is that we redefine the way in which we teach to engage. Because if we use the technology in the same way that younger generations are using it, then we are actually going to have a better result with the use of technology in our classrooms. So that's what I think.
Thank you. I think you just rubbed salt in the wound. With that question, because we have to come up with something that, okay, we said at the beginning that we are pro-technology, and now we have to, say when it is not addressed with technology. Well, first of all, we don't need to panic, because sometimes we think of Terminator, maybe it's retro for you. But Terminator, they were afraid that the robots and, all the technology would take control of us. No, we still have the control, because those GPT statements, they are supposed to be fed by humans. So as long as we can do that, and we need to be very creative onto what we ask. It's like in Google, you put something silly, whatever comes is silly. You put something like, for example, in Google Scholar, something more insightful, that's what comes. So it depends on what you feed, that's what you get. If you sow some seeds, then you will get, what you fed. And I think also, as you were mentioning, the feelings, the emotions, culture. There is one aspect of culture that will not ever be replaced, and that has to do with gastronomy. I was telling, my friends, I have friends here already, the whole week. And, as we were chatting on our way to the university, someone said, tell me what the tamales are like. And, and I go, well, they have corn, and what's the corn like? Well, those are the leaves. And I said, no, you better go to Mexico and see, what the tamales are like. And those flavors, the smell, that will never, ever be replaced. That's why we still have exchange students. That's why I'm here today. Even though we met in Teams or Zoom, it wasn't the same. And when you saw each other, it was great. So I think still there are some things that cannot be taught with technology. On the other hand, I teach public speaking, and well, I can say that it releases some stress, because some students, they prefer, I always ask them an elevator pitch in 1 minute. They have to introduce themselves as if they were running in the elevator with someone, with a celebrity that they always wanted to be with. And they said, no, teacher, I have to practice. I have to practice before. And I said, no, there's no way out. And they want to film themselves and make some editions. And I said, no, this has to be live. And so that simulation, that's okay. We can do it with technology. But it's not the same as, you know, being here sitting and sharing with you. It's stressful, isn't it? Because as, you know, some of my colleagues said, oh, I was going to say that. We have the same notes, you know. And that will not, imagine if we did that like 3 or 4 times, you know, and we film it and no problem, we record it, and then it will be shared with others. So there's no way out. This is live. This is going on. Also, the eye contact with my student, that cannot be replaced. You know, that you know, chat that I have with my students, that relationship. After all, that's what we want. We want to have relationship with people so that they can help us. You know, those tutoring sessions, they work wonders, especially for students who are shy. Once, you know, they get in and say, oh, I never knew that you play the guitar. I didn't know, you know, everything you did until I talked to you directly. So those are the kind of things that will never, ever be replaced. And because, for example, listening, speaking, reading, and writing is like riding a bike. You don't know how good you are until you try or until you fall down. You don't know how good you are when speaking until you try or until you write. Maybe it's a mess at the beginning, but the more you try, the better you get. So those are skills, you know, at the end of the day, and skills need to be practiced. So that's something that can't be replaced with technology. You gotta do it, you know, either with pencil, typing, whatever, but it is the same end. That's what I would say.
Yes, thank you so much. Now there will be some time for the audience to ask questions or comments, exactly, in connection to the first question, the positive side of technology, or
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, right? Whenever I have a mic in my hand, I get shaking, so bear with me. And I'm gonna try to articulate my, it's like a comment and a question. So to me, it's still concerning when you say that, I was actually taking notes when you referred to artificial intelligence, like the adjectives like amazing, magnificent, the future, inevitable. It's like, I know that it will happen, I mean, it's happening for decades, as you said, but it still is somehow concerning because I feel like deep down, it is a way, but we have to be careful. Caution was one of the words you said many, many times. And my comment is, as far as I know, artificial intelligence, there are many types of it. We have like face recognition, voice recognition, ChatGPT is another one. And I'm thinking about bias in those technologies. So for instance, if our students will use those prompts to receive an answer, how do we make sure that there are no bias in those responses? And how we somehow make sure that our students realize those biases in the answer or in the picture they see? When you have, I don't know, a generator presentation, how do you make sure that the pictures used in those presentations are not biased? I know that this goes, I mean, it covers a lot of aspects, and it's really hard to somehow know how to tackle each one of them, but it still is very concerning to me. And also, I'm thinking about the role of universities, trying to teach pre-service teachers to move into this, because to me, somehow, I don't even know to use some apps, Excel or PowerPoint, you name it. And I'm thinking now I have to learn how to use and apply those new technologies that are even harder to manage. So the role of universities and how we avoid biases. I'm thinking about also the presentation about interculturalism and thinking about the reality in Chile now that with migration and all of that. So I don't know, there are many concepts in my mind now, and I don't know, it's just difficult to organize everything. And thank you for the presentations. It was really insightful. Honored to, I don't know, be here now. And that's it. Thank you.
thank you, Cristobal. Any other comment from the audience?
Afternoon, panelists, fellow teachers. and future fellow teachers. My name is Chuan from Dirección de Formación Generales. I would like to, well, share some inputs, humble inputs with you. First thing, there are studies, scientific studies, expressing the apprehension on the usage of AI technologies. According to my point of view, I was like, well, whatever. We have to try to embrace them. It's the ever-changing society with its technological things. We have to learn how to use them wisely. For example, in the 7th century, a monk in China called Xuanzang monk, he went to Nalanda temple in Bahil in India on foot. He spent 17 years. If Xuanzang was a monk in 21st century, do you think he would still walk to India or take a plane instead? We have to embrace the technology, but for, justifiable purposes. What is more, technology has to be a time saver, not a last-minute fire truck. Then, with the time AI technology has saved us, we have to improve things we didn't do quite well in terms of our teaching or pedagogical methods. We shouldn't take students for granted and using our spare time now we have because of the AI technology that does, basically, the creation of worksheets, the text sheets, even the assessments for us, and spend those precious time on doing our own things that don't quite relate to class practices. We can improve the teacher-student relationship. We have to deepen the reason why my students don't learn. And I think that's, instead of a threat, quite an opportunity for us as teachers. Second thing, it's about using technology, not being used by technology. In the event of some, unexpected, catastrophic event, for example, there is a solar radioactive storm coming to the Earth, and suddenly there is no AI technology, no cell phone communication. What should we do? We are teachers. We should be still teaching. For example, what happened to the schools in Hiroshima and Nagasaki the next day after atomic bomb attack? The teachers, they still went to school. Well, the survived people, the students, still went to school. What did they do? They simply left the wrecked blackboard. They still they still taught their classes, and the students still learned. That is vocation. That is commitment. That is our conviction as teacher. We are bound to be doing that, with or without technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great
I
words.
wanted to make a comment on the apprehension that was just mentioned before, because I think that many of us have shared the same apprehension. When it comes to biases, I know that AI developers are working on avoiding them. In fact, ChatGPT on the first page says clearly that they are working on avoiding biases, and you cannot actually ask them, the system, the AI, to write offensive things or write something to insult somebody, for example. You cannot do that with that particular tool. And I know that this is a concern that developers also have because of the same reason. But I think also it's a call for us as teachers to understand our role as critical thinkers ourselves, and also teaching critical thinking skills on our students. Because as with any other tool, it can be used for good or for evil. And it's our job as teachers to not just avoid it, but teach how to critically think about it and reflect on each one of the tools that we have in front of us. So the same as with an axe, you can chop a tree, you can also kill somebody. So it's kind of like our job, if we're going to be using it in our classes, and we run into this type of biases, like the ones with pronunciation that I've told you about, because I think that's a great bias that we face in our field. Teach our learners that it's okay to have an accent. Like Martha has said to us, an accent is our identity. So that's just one little example of the ways in which we as teachers can participate in the process with technology.
I would like to give another example. I know that this is not related to education, but six years, yes, it was last week, I think. There was a release of a new game, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah? Okay, so the main character of this game is Link, and he received a new ability to build things. He can take things from the environment, and he can make cars, planes, houses, whatever he wants. So Nintendo's idea was really good. Users can build up new things. In the game, we also have Koloks that are spirits of the forest, and you need to rescue them. However, gamers have been torturing Koloks using the new Link's abilities. What I mean is that technology at the end is not, as you said, good or evil, but users make decisions, and sometimes they can be harmful, but not technology. And as you mentioned, yes, in ChatGPT, there is something that it says that maybe some of the information is biased, and you cannot ask for information that is before 2021. So yes, I think that everything depends on the use that we give to technology rather than only technology by itself.
Is there any other last question? Yes.
And I don't know, I just wanted to mention that I've learned that the importance of the integration of the technology, the balance that we should make inside the classroom that you all of you have mentioned, also like taking into consideration the purpose of why I'm using the technology that I'm using. I found like really interesting what the teacher said about teaching critical thinking in the students. I think that we can all agree that that's like, I would say that that's the main answer to the use of technology, and also ethics. You use the students how to use it, and you balance all of it. So it's not that we can't use technology, we can do it, but we need to teach how to use it. And I think that's something that all of you have said, and also the teachers that presented yesterday and today, and thank you for that. So it's amazing.
Thank you. I think that's a great summary of all the agreements. And it's great to have do you have a last comment, last question? No? Okay. So it's great to see that we find a sort of an agreement in terms of the balance, in terms of the use of technology, that in general we all use technology. Personally, if I drive a car and I want to get to a place, I use a voice recognition device. I created a picture for my daughter in Dali, very crazy picture, original. I fixed a picture, an old picture, so I got a new one using artificial intelligence. So it's among us, and it's something we need to deal with because it's the next step. It's the new revolution. And sometimes revolution means that some people might be scared, some people may be favoring revolution. And so I'm happy to be living these days in which we have to face as teachers whether we include it and how we include technology, because we know that students every day they are in contact with it. We are so proud to have had these members. We thank you very much for this interesting and insightful conversation. I think we all had the opportunity to reflect while we were listening to them, and we were making all these connections with all our experiences as users, as teachers, as many of us have families, so we see how technology is also invading our lives as a family, as human beings. Before finishing, we would like to give the family, the members of the panel, I feel that you're already a family, that's why, a small present from, so, Rosana, Esteban, please. So you can remember this collaboration. And this is not virtual, it's real, it's tangible. The real thing, yes.
Bruno, can I read the
Please.
Yes, it says, the roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is so sweet. Oh.
Thank you. This is not going to be the last time we're going to meet, probably. Okay, because technology is living with us, so there will be another event probably next year. Who knows? Maybe you will be here organizing it. Who knows? And before finishing, I would like to ask Dr. Valeria Sumonte to give us our closure words for this event. She's the head of the department at the university. So.
Good afternoon. Our guest, Marta, thanks for being here today with us and yesterday the whole week. Our colleagues, presenters, and students. It's a pleasure to be here today, this afternoon, at the end of this second Congress, where two areas were linked. A bit of history, and don't worry, I'm not going to speak too much. In first place, to remind that in 2003, the Ministry of Education of our country at that time said that Chilean people would be bilingual by 2010. Is it right, Raquel? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, 13 years later, we cannot say that we are a bilingual country. I don't know if you agree with me, but in spite of the government efforts, like, for example, the English Opens Doors program, which was created to be in charge of implementing different strategies to support English language teaching and learning. It could be possible that some of you were part of the, here in the audience, that you were a beneficiary of those strategies implemented by the program. For example, one of those strategies was called, or is called, I don't know well if it's going on, Pingüinos sin Fronteras. Is it? No, okay. Summer and winter camps, yes, they are. Semester abroad scholarships offered to future English teachers. In this case, future teachers could stay a semester studying in a university from an English-speaking country, and so many other activities. Any of you got that scholarship? I don't. Yes, you 2, 3, 4. Good, excellent. Now, we are in a generation where technology has surrounded us from all sides. Our everyday life runs on the use of technology, not here only at the university, but at home. We have, I don't know, microwaves, television. Technology is there. We cannot avoid it. Because of technology, we have a significant amount of knowledge to improve our lives and solve problems. But also, it could create problems. If we do not know how to use it, we're going to have problems, as our panelists said before. So be careful with this. The relationship between humans and technology has continued for ages and has given rise to many innovations. So, in this context, and as we have experienced during these 2 days, it is possible to connect English learning and teaching and technology. It could be something that it has been doing from a long time ago, but it's nowadays that most of us have realized that it's really possible, and of course, challenging. But also with a great number of opportunities to support English language learning and teaching if we use it correctly. That's why we were here these 2 days, to learn some of the alternatives we have when working with technology and in English language. Well, finally, to say thanks to Martha, the panelists, presenters, the audience, and the organizers of this event who are here. They are from Formación General and Departamento de Idiomas. Thanks a lot. And see you next year. Thanks a lot.
And finally, I would like to invite Carolina to give us the very last words, right, from Formación General.
We have reached the end of our convention, and it has been an honor to receive all of you here in our university. This convention has gathered different speakers from different universities by sharing their research. Our keynote speaker who came directly from Mexico, school teachers from Constitución, for example, and the rest of the Maule region, English pedagogy students, among others. We have all managed to build up a networking place in order to share our professional experience in EFL through technology as an ally and not as an enemy in our classrooms. This means we all of us have to work together with creativity and commitment to move this important agenda forward. The English area from Dirección de Formación General and the English department from the School of English Pedagogy acknowledge your participation. So safe journey and see you in the 3rd version next year. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, this is not part of the what was organized, but I just wanted to say that organizing and putting together an event like this is very time-consuming. There's a lot of effort put into this, and whether it's a big event or a small event, regardless of how big it is, it takes a lot of work. And I would like to thank, well, the organizing committee, but I think Carolina deserves an extra token of appreciation, because not only has she done most of the work organizing this, but she has done it with a lot of love and commitment. And so I think she deserves a special hand.
Thank you so much. This is a surprise for me. A picture? Okay.
Stand for a picture. Come on. The organizing committee needs a picture. All right. Let's move. Then we can all. Yes. First the three of you. Think about all of the details that they had to cover. It was a lot. Good job with the panelists. You too. Come on, you guys. It's your responsibility that we are here, so thank you for inviting us. Come here. Come here. Good job. Everybody. Valeria, come here. Yeah. Everybody who worked on this. Yes.
We move?
Vamos, nos vemos luego para allá. Okay.
We closer? Closer? Keep pushing it back. We mingle?
Más cerca. Es que tú lo ves fotógrafo, vas a sacar las fotos súper simétricas, súper preocupadas.
This side's going to be very bright.